Hi, welcome to AI Trust Talks. I'm your host, Emma Johnson, and I'm excited to have you here. Artificial intelligence is changing the way we live, work, and connect, but with great power comes great responsibility. That's why this podcast exists, to deep dive into the critical conversations about AI safety, ethics, and responsible use. Every episode will explore the real-world challenges and opportunities AI brings, from helping business owners and corporate leaders make better decisions, to empowering data scientists to create responsible solutions, to guiding parents on how AI impacts their children's safety. This podcast is for anyone who cares about building a future we can all trust. So whether you're here to learn, debate, or just stay ahead of the curve, I invite you to join me on this journey as we shape the future of AI together. This is AI Trust Talks, where we build trust and technology, one conversation at a time. Welcome to AI Trust Talks, where we explore the intersection of AI, ethics, and trust in the developing markets and technology. I'm your host, Emma Johnson, and I'm delighted to have Gaia with me here today. You are a seasoned leader in digital transformation, and I know we've met on so many different occasions and have always had this really special bond when we start talking about AI and the future and the trust element around it. So thank you for joining.
Thanks a lot for having me. I'm very excited, and I have the mug.
I love it. So I want to start off by talking about kind of AI and the digital transformation and your experience where you've led some really large-scale AI-driven transformations. What are some of the biggest challenges you've seen organizations face when they are integrating AI into their operations?
Well, I think most don't start with the why and the people. And I think they just too quickly jump to tools, to the models, and the POC without really thinking about AI in the real business world and really rally the entire organization around the reason why we're doing it. I've seen very promising digital programs that remain in what we call POC land. And the reason is because they focus on the tech over the outcomes. Now, in contrast, when they start with really the why and value to whom and for what, that simple alignment makes a massive difference towards production and adoption.
I love that. And I do think sometimes the people get left behind, and it's such a key element of what we're looking at today is making sure we do have human-centric AI as we drive the transformation. So how do you balance innovation with risk management and AI adoption, and especially sort of in various different industries, whether it be financial services or other industries?
To be honest with you, I think particularly in the regulated industry, more than others, innovation without brakes is a crash that is just waiting to happen. And you only have one strike. And, if not, your reputation is gone. And with that, your market share and everything around it. I think in financial services, trust is your currency. And that's why AI innovation must come with seatbelts. Now, that means embedding your risk, your compliance within your product development cycle from the onset, from day one. Not as, the usual afterthought. And we saw that, when it came to GDPR and many other regulations around it, It's really important that when you have your models, your agents, or your AI-powered product, it's done the thinking before it's live. Now, obviously, this will come with different degrees depending on the size of your organization and where you are in your journey. So for anyone, it's very important to make it first and foremost enterprise grade before you put anything into production. So we normally use, I normally use a kind of AI pyramid, which has at the bottom of the pyramid your, regulation, your compliance, your security, data privacy. And then it starts, to avoid you getting burned which means, mapping your data flows, know what the data has been used for and by whom, review the contracts with the AI provider, because let's not forget the third-party risk that I think most of us don't think of. Then loop in your DPO or your general counsel at the beginning of the project and run short training for the people to understand what ethics means and the best usage of it.
Yeah.
Second tier is the organization architecture. And that really means make it real and not fragile. Because to set out the right governance is critical, not just for AI, but for any solution and product. So you assign a cross-functional owner to your AI project. You make sure that you have a pre-approved list of models that can be used. You standardize the document prompting, for example, and you make sure that you document your model evaluation criteria. So we're all on the same page. And only then, once those two parts are defined, you look at selecting your use case. And focus on, rule of thumb. I value low frequency tasks that are first, which, means you're saving time in low risk repetitive tasks, and limit those experiments to 1 to a quarter. Please, let's just not boil the ocean. Initially, you avoid putting AI in your core decisions-making processes, which means, for example, if you are a loan provider, don't put it in your credit scoring.
Yeah.
And last but not least, you define clear success metrics and involve user early. These, are simple hygiene factors that you can put in place.
I think these are brilliant points, definitely around kind of the foundational setup you need to have in place, and also deciding whether AI is the right mechanism or the right tool to be using, right? And aligning it with the business strategy, not just taking an AI first approach. It's more around what the business solution or the business problem is you're trying to solve for. Yeah. And the people. We always need to think about the people behind it. So it's a very, very good point. Can you share an example of a successful AI implementation? She did touch on success metrics, and I think this is somewhere where we don't always think about what success looks like when we're rolling out a new AI product or service. And how did it significantly improve business outcomes, and what were some of those success factors?
For that, if we're talking about outstanding one, I will have to talk about FinTech. To be honest with you, I haven't seen in my work so far a larger enterprise making massive stride just yet. And it's a matter of scale. So I think, this is a FinTech that I work with, which is specialized in SME lending for trade finance. They wanted to speed up their credit decisioning and for the suppliers that they were in emerging markets. And traditional credit scoring wasn't making the cut. So we built a solution that used transaction behavior, invoice repayment patterns, and open banking cash flow data to create a dynamic risk profile. But here is the key. We didn't just throw a first model at it. We redesigned the entire process because obviously otherwise it's just a clunky splinkering of AI. We really look at the data to make sure that they were ready. Explainability of requirements because, the regulator is coming and regulatory thresholds. So we embed AI directly into the underwriting workflow. And of course, we did simulation, stress testing, and behavior analysis of the model under stress test. The results, they were really phenomenal. First of all, 30% reduction in credit decision time, 18% uplift in approval rates for deep tier suppliers, and full auditability and regulatory friendly explainability that was built in the model. That, to me, is production grade, enterprise ready AI deployment.
That's fantastic. I think a lot of people can learn from your experiences there and doing it right at the start, not something that you should think about at the end. Especially when we talk about trust and responsible or safe AI, is making sure we really build it at the starting point. And you mentioned that earlier as well about having the right people at the table when we're deciding or making decisions about what's going next.
And I think it has to be in the product development cycle. It has to be one of the key requirements. It should have been before, and now even more so has to be prominent.
Yeah, and so many people are only just thinking about it now when the ship has sailed in some areas. So we need to keep the conversations going.
Absolutely. And funnily enough, yesterday I posted something about red teaming, which is one of the key themes that will be discussed today. And somebody said, "Oh, this post is not going to go viral." And I replied, "Yes, this post is going to go viral the moment the first fine or the first big headlines of something goes wrong with a model, it's going to happen. And then I promise you, this will become a very, very important topic to address."
Agreed. And it's amazing how we can learn. And I think when we talk about responsible AI or safe AI and we give those kind of real life examples of where it has gone wrong already, everyone pretty much references the small number of big, like, reputational risk instances, whether it be the Apple Card or other instances where people really start talking about the ones that go wrong, and they will focus on that versus the ones that have actually gone right. So it's good we're having that conversation. So let's move a bit more to the trust and ethics side of things. So obviously we've already discussed how this is a growing concern. Organizations really need to start taking steps now. What sort of frameworks and principles do you believe are essential in the responsible AI space?
Responsible AI is what makes the invisible visible. I wish I had come up with that, but
Let's
actually
trademark that. I love it.
Is Caroline Criado Paris, and she said it's best. And this is how we'll frame any AI conversation. When I operationalize responsible AI, I think about 4 actionable principles. The first, obviously, transparency, because explaining how AI makes a decision, not just for the compliance folks, but really for everyone, because we should all understand why an AI said yes or no. And for example, that could be something we can put up front to the users, and UI pop up saying, I don't know, insufficient cash flow. That's why I say no. Or, not enough funds. And that will automatically create trust instead of just being rejected for no reason. Second, fairness. And that is to prevent and address algorithmic bias. And this is, it's very dear to me because the bias is not a bug. And let's be clear, it's just a mirror of our society. It's a mirror of the people that code. It's the mirror of the people that test. It's the mirror of our society. Look, I've seen models that deprioritize, women-led SME lending due to the skewed training data, or due to the poor number of information available. You need fairness audits inbuilt in everything you do. So you can create synthetic edge cases, diverse team to spot those bias before they get into your model. Lastly, accountability. And this is assigning a responsible owner for outcome. Now, right now, we're all excited about AI. Everybody wants to be in the big project. Everybody wants to be attached to it. But when something goes wrong, who are you going to call? Ghostbusters?
Yeah.
No, you need to make sure that you have a name in the box of the person that takes the responsibility around, assigning and defining the outcome for that model. Treat them as mini products and assign the name. Lastly, safety. And safety, again, is something that means testing your model for unintended consequences of your product or whatever it is. Run adversarial testing, set the thresholds, and monitor the behavior in production. Don't just let it be because in testing was okay. AI must behave well under pressure, just like any of us.
Very, very good points. And I thought it was interesting around transparency to not just say this outcome was generated by AI, and if you don't like the outcome, please contact this person, and that recourse kind of element, it's more around saying why they were declined and still giving them the recourse action if they didn't agree with the outcome.
And these are not just ethical ideas. There needs to be inbuilt requirements that we should all keep in mind upfront, as we said before.
I love it. And the point around fairness, I mean, I know you and I have had many conversations around fairness and diversity and the need for diversity. And we often get caught at speaking events talking about what's the gender of your chatbot, and really honing in on things like that. But you're right, it's reflecting or mirroring what's happening in society today. And we're trying to change history and do it better and then rely on a machine to do it better for us. So you need those humans in there to make sure that they really are doing the right thing and performing as we expect and don't cause more disparity in the society as well. So how do you think organizations, and this is very much around the how, and I think this is where we've got blue washing, where a lot of people are kind of flicking out, the principles and yes, transparency and yes, explainability. And I think a lot of the content behind it around the how is really missing. So how do you think organizations can really ensure transparency and accountability with AI-driven decision-making?
I think actually this is a very important point, especially when this week we had the shocking news about Builder AI, filing for bankruptcy and actually being powered by humans. So I advocate for what is called radical transparency, because if you can't explain it, really, you should not put it into production and nobody should use it. It's like, for any piece of technology, nothing different from what we've done before. Treat AI like it's just any other business function. You wouldn't launch a financial product that compliance has a sign off on. So why would you ship a model that, has no data lineage, bias testing, or human in the loop safeguards? Transparency, again, starts with design on the onset. Don't wait until the model is live to explain it, but build explainability into the user interface and internal tooling that are from day one available to you. Put names on the models, but when something goes wrong, make sure that those people have a clear owner, somewhat responsible for the data quality, for the model behavior, business impact, and embed the accountability into the product OKRs and assign dedicated AI stewards, for example, if your company is large enough.
Yeah, that's really good. And I'm always harp on about the accountability point, but it's also not just saying, hey, would you put your name against this if it goes wrong? But it's also around, do you even understand the mechanics of why it went wrong? Do you understand, are you happy with your data and the quality of it? So it's really key for those that are appointed with that accountability understand the ins and outs of what they're really being accountable for.
Absolutely. And I think otherwise we're going to have the same challenges that we have sorry to go back to GDPR, that's the most prominent to the data ownership. There were people that, were identified as business data owner, and when something went wrong, the data wasn't correct, the results were not right, they were called and was like, I don't know, I have no idea. They just put my name on the box. So definitely this time around, because we are talking about the next wave of big changes in how we think, how we are going to shape the future, it's really important. If you're uncomfortable about putting your name in the box, you really need to make sure that that's highlighted, number one, but also that you do something about it in terms of understanding. Let's just stop doing things for the sake of doing it.
Yeah, agreed. And I liked your point on transparency. And I think it's also key to know that we don't just expect transparency in the AI system. We actually need changes to process to drive that right transparency level as well. And I think some people do actually miss that next step, or we're always just kind of focusing on the AI system. But a lot of it is around the process that you need to change, and that recourse, how do clients contact you if they're not happy with the outcomes, etc. And bringing in that kind of full life cycle on the journey. And what role do you think regulation plays? And I know we're seeing some advancing regulations. Obviously, the EU AI Act is probably the biggest, broadest one known. We've also got the DIFC Regulation 10. How do you think regulations are playing a role in ethical AI practices?
I think regulations, as always, set the floor, not the ceiling. Obviously, as you said, we all look at the EU AI Act as the golden standard, but more and more, the UAE, KSA are making great strides. But enforcement and education, those are the two that need to catch up. And they need to catch up because I personally see a clear gap, particularly when we talk about many SMEs, many startups and scale-ups. They don't even have compliance people in their teams. Now, yes, you're never too small for compliance, especially going back, if you are trying to sell a product that is going to be in a regulated environment. There are models that, impact credit, impact hiring, and they don't have the right person, whether legal or compliance. Now we need simpler, more accessible frameworks, I think, and sandboxes for them too, which will allow the entire ecosystem, not just a few, to use AI and benefit in their own businesses.
Yeah, agreed. And I think just that point on sandboxes, I think they are out there and we should always leverage them more and kind of get all different various organizations and industries involved in those sandbox developments. There's a lot of co-creation that we could do that would benefit humans and society as well.
Even that co-creation and learning from each other, from the challenges that we have experienced as we implement AI or as we do our POC, what has worked and what has not worked. I think that is also a reframing, just as before, around the culture of failure. It's not bad to fail if you fail safely within a sandbox or a confined use case, and then you learn and apply those learning further to make the next iteration successful.
Agreed. And I think that's definitely learning together is really, really key. And I always used to say, like, responsible AI was not a competitive edge because we're doing the right thing by humans and society. But it's kind of getting to the point where so many years down the track, I'm like, if you don't do it, you will lose market share. Humans are getting way more involved and GDPR played a really key role in literacy of data and personal data as well. And that's where regulations have really played a beneficial role. And it's important we do that. But I just think organizations need to really step up their game when it comes to AI safety in general. And so let's talk a bit about kind of the future of AI. And I know you're very much involved in the entrepreneur lifestyle, which is fantastic to see, and it's really exciting. So where do you think AI plays a role in business strategy? And looking ahead, how do you see AI evolving in industries and in product development?
Well, I think we're moving more and more from AI as a feature to AI as the foundation. And, in modern product development, AI isn't just an add-on, but it's actually baked into the discovery part, the delivery, the operations, and the deployment. I think whether it's your automated workflow, the personalized UX, or streamlines your operation, AI is shifting from experimentation to infrastructure. But the next frontier is AI resilience by design. That means almost taking parts of the cybersecurity thinking and applying to AI. Some of the most advanced way to stay safe into your product, especially obviously in our regulator sectors. I've seen that shipping AI products isn't the finish, but shipping safe, stress test AI, is your end goal. That's why I've been pushing for red teaming as a product discipline, not just as a security drill. Team need to be intentional on how to test because AI might fail, it might be tricked, hallucinate, or even misalign with the policies. So bake those learnings into your product requirements upfront, and then the sky's the limit.
I love it. I'm hearing so many more people start talking about red teaming. And I think there's a bit of not a misuse of the word, but I want to get some insights from you around red teaming as we go through it. What emerging AI technologies excite you the most? And how do you see them impacting industries?
First is intelligent agents and small task-specific models. And the second one, my personal favorite, vibe coding. Let's start with agents, because I think we've all seen and heard about it. These are not chatbots, let me be clear. They are goal-driven systems that can reason, they can take action and adapt. They can also be used to, for example, triage your user feedback, prioritize your features, even pre-draft some of your compliance responses to your regulator. It's like hiring an hyper-specialized intern that never sleeps, but that needs a manager and a human in the loop to supervise what he's doing.
Yeah.
Then there are, the small models that go attached to that. And we're seeing a shift from that sort of monolithic general purpose LLMs to domain-tuned, lightweight models that are faster, cheaper to run, and far easier to control and understand the lineage. These small models, they can be great, for example, to evaluate invoice risk, or flag anomalies without that latency and opacity that we have seen in the bigger models. So now, that will make for lower compute cost, faster iteration cycles, and of course, explainability and control. And finally, my personal favorite, vibe coding. And, this has been my own hands-on journey, learning how to build with AI tools. I have rolled up my sleeves like I've never done before with Cursor. That's the one of choice. And let me tell you, it changed completely how you think about product development. You stop designing any static flows. You start designing more dynamic conversations. You see upfront what you're trying to create. It makes the conversation with your developer easier, faster. But let me say, you will still need a developer. You will still need that technical experts to put it in production. Otherwise, it would just say a glorified POC.
I love it. And I always feel your energy when you start talking about coding. I know it's one of your favorites. Very cool. And how can businesses foster a culture of literacy? And we spoke a bit before about evolving regulations that are making humans understand that they need to watch what's happening with their personal data, or they need to think about AI. And then literacy was a key part of sort of the EU AI Act as well. So how can businesses foster a culture of AI literacy among employees and ensure effective adoption, but I think also just have that innovation culture?
I think when AI becomes part of the job and not a threat to it, adoption takes care of itself. To build real AI literacy, what I see you need to move from intimidation to empowerment, but not fake empowerment. AI needs to be feeling inclusive and not exclusive. It's not only for data scientists or the chosen few. But if we want that adoption to really stick, we have to make AI everybody's business. That starts with roles and not roles in AI, meaning you don't teach people to become a prompt engineer. You teach your ops, your product team, finance team, how to spot where AI can reduce the friction, improve the accuracy, or surface the insight like you've never seen before. So show how AI augments their day-to-day tasks, life. Let them test use cases with the real tools, not the watered-down demos that we continue to see, and celebrate those AI wins, not just with the few, but across the company. And then people won't feel excluded, but included, and they will feel empowered. If people don't feel included or empowered, they will turn to unsanctioned tools and fragmented experiments. And then your shadow AI will breed fast. And that's a risk multiplier. Yeah. So provide proper tooling, access, and training so your policies are actually not just policies and hype decks. Because if at home, for my personal necessity, I can access the latest model and tools, why exactly at work I should use an old, slower model and a suboptimal tooling?
I really like this. So remove the fear, empower employees to have access to the tools and to test them and to use them and to drive the power of what they can do for us as employees. And the more we provide these tools, employees will remove the fear because they start to use them and realize that it's not so scary after all. But you're right, shadow AI is a big risk that's up and coming because organizations might not be moving fast enough to provide the tools, which just drives people to use off-the-record tools, ones that are not approved, ones off script. And it's key we really start to bring in those tools to organizations. I think regulated industries do take a while and always slower to bring these kind of tools in. And any kind of areas where we could move fast is always beneficial. Let's talk a bit about red teaming. I know you're quite passionate about this as well. What's your experience with red teaming and how to do it and the best ways to do it?
I almost would talk about a cybersecurity person who is interested in AI because the fundamentals are very much the same. I will then put somebody with data expertise, so like a data engineer. Then obviously you need some developers and of course your LLM or AI specialist for the model that you're looking at. And then really is documenting how the system behaves under stress, is revealing any harmful biases outputs before the user do. It's identify any ethical or reputational risk that is not captured in your automated testing, and then is providing regulators and internal auditors with concrete evidence that you have taken all the proactive steps and governance to ensure safety of your team. But when you think about a red teaming in the context of products, you think about defining the threat models, which really sounds like defining the persona you are looking at. So malicious user, vulnerable user, uninformed user that could use it. Design the realistic scenarios. And yes, that really sounds like exception handling if you think about it. So what if the model recommends an unsafe action? What if reveals private information? Or what is biased against a particular group? You then evaluate the outputs against the critical metrics, because it's always good. If you don't measure, you don't look at. And that is really KPI alignment to business outcomes. So safety of your product in terms of toxicity, misinformation, fairness, bias, stereotype propagation, robustness, like hallucinations, and explainability in terms of clarity of logic. And then you document and fix. Yes, that sounds like your feedback loop. And yes, you need Jira for it. So it's also red teaming. It's not a one-time activity. It's an ongoing habit which is integrated into your model governance, the continuous integration pipeline, and the way you actually support your AI.
Yeah, agreed. And it's again, just that life cycle that is the machine, is the human, all working together to do the right thing and build the right thing. Thank you for those insights on that. So I want to touch a bit more about your personal insights and advice and experiences that you've had. So you've worked across diverse industries, and obviously you've lived in different countries as well. What lessons have you learned about leadership in AI-driven environments?
To be honest, the biggest lesson is that the fundamentals still apply. AI doesn't need a different kind of leadership. It needs leaders who remember what leadership is. It hasn't changed what good looks like in leadership. Maybe it's made it more visible when it's missing. I learned the foundations of leadership early in my career when I worked at General Electric, so long time ago. And it's really three things. Be clear about your why, create space for people to grow, and hold the tension between urgency and care. In AI work, especially where people get overwhelmed by jargon, by the fast pace, and the pressure to transform everything around you, it's really important to have clear, safe directions and then the tech.
I love that. Leaders need to continue to lead with or without AI, and AI is not changing the landscape. It's important to have key leadership skills and key leaders driving transformational changes. So what advice would you give to professionals looking to navigate AI's impact on their careers?
Don't wait to be technical. I think get curious, get involved, and get strategic about your learning. You don't need to become a data scientist from tomorrow. You need to understand where AI touches your job, your customers, and your company as a whole. Learn the language of AI enough that you can ask better questions, enough that you can challenge the assumptions, enough that you are able to connect the dots, because business and technology still need a translator. The people that I've seen thrive in this environment aren't necessarily the most technical, to be honest. They are the most adaptive. They experiment with the tools hands-on, even if, it breaks things out. They stay close to users and the real problem that AI can solve for. They understand that adoption is often more valuable than invention.
Yeah, I love this. And AI literacy does not mean being a data scientist. It means exploring the tools, seeing how it could support innovation, looking at the risks and understanding the risks and how we mitigate it when we're using these AI tools. So that's very, very cool advice. So thank you for that. If you could change one misconception about AI, what would it be?
The biggest misconception is that AI is some magical solution that will fix your broken processes, your bad data, your unclear goals, and your bad leadership. In reality, AI will just reflect whatever system, culture, bias you feed it. If your operations are messy, your customer logic isn't clear, or your incentives are misaligned, well, AI will simply amplify all of that mess. If something, however, is great, AI can scale it, but it won't fix what you won't face.
I love this. That's really, really good pointers. So, Gaia, thank you so much for joining us today. It's been an absolute pleasure to have you and to hear your insights and experience. So thank you for joining us.
Thank you so much.
That's it for today's episode of AI Trust Talks. I hope this conversation has sparked new insights and empowered you to think critically about the role of AI in our lives. Together, we have the power to shape the future where technology serves humanity responsibly and ethically. If you have found this episode valuable, don't forget to subscribe, share, and join the conversation. Your voice matters in building a trusted AI future. Until next time, stay curious, stay informed, and let's keep building trust in technology, one conversation at a time.